Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Blue Star Roundup. My name is Rob Vale. This is Levi Batchelor. We are with the Middle Tennessee Dallas Cowboys fan club, and every week we take a look at our upcoming games, and then we take a look back at the previous games. So I gotta say, we're gonna jump right into it. We played the Bengals this past week, and man, I'm telling you what. We leaned on them, we beat them, and we just really hammered them pretty well. And I was impressed with any number of players and position groups. I'm just really excited about where this team's at right now.
Absolutely.
I'm just overall impressed with the coaches. They've got the players to be at 4-1 at this point with the injuries, the suspensions. All of the mixes and things that we've had to deal with, and we're mixing and matching players at different positions. They've done a great job of playing to their strengths.
Yep. Well, to me, the big picture is this game was absolutely a statement win for this organization. This was Zeke's big party. This was Dak's big party. Matter of fact, a note here that I've got is this game was all Zeke, all Dak, all offensive line, all defense, all day. Now, I know that Cincinnati picked up a couple of garbage time touchdowns. Yep. 28-14, even that score just sounds way too close. If you watch this game, you know that it was not 28-14. It was 100-0 by the time the Cowboys got finished in there.
Yeah, they really dominated everywhere along the line. I think the fact that you didn't even hear Geno Atkins' name called all game, and he didn't even register a stat, let alone a sack, a pressure. No, he didn't. This offensive line showed, Pac-Man Jones was running his mouth this past week, and he, or Adam Jones, he doesn't go by Pac-Man anymore, but, he was running his mouth this week, and, about the offensive line and why they paid him, $100 million on the offensive line. Well, the truth of the matter is, Pac-Man was right. They paid a lot of money, but they're getting the results for paying that.
Absolutely.
And so, just a dominating performance, and guys that are filling in that you didn't expect to fill in. The obvious one there in the room is Dak Prescott.
Yep.
But beyond that, look at Anthony Brown on defense. Coming in for Scandrick.
Fantastic. He's been fantastic.
Our defensive line. That's the other thing too. We saw a much improved defensive line.
Yes.
This week, and while he didn't get a sack and he didn't register on the tackles, I want to talk about Tank Lawrence and what his presence meant.
He made all the difference, did he not? It literally looked like an entirely different unit out there.
Well, you see what happens when you have a dominant defensive end, because what they ended up having to do is they had to double team him
every play,
and so what you saw as a result of that is that middle of that pocket getting collapsed.
Yep.
And so looking at some of the stats from this game, you got Terrell McClain got a sack and a half. Jack Crawford got a half a sack. Benson Mayowa got a sack.
Yep.
And Cedric Thornton got a sack. Well, what do they all have in common? They all come up the middle.
Yep.
And so that's something huge for this defense. And I'm... Again, shout out to Hot Rod Marinelli. He's done a yeoman's job.
Yes.
With that defense, and I'm just excited. We talk about it every week. We talk about Mo Claiborne and how great he's playing, and he is playing great. But we saw his athleticism, knocking that ball out, rejecting it out of the air. Byron Jones, the same thing. He's coming into his own, and he's still learning the safety position.
Yep.
And then, as we mentioned, we had Anthony Brown coming in for Scandrick, and we've got guys playing to the linebacker spot that are doing pretty well considering. And so I tried to come up with something that we could really look at this week and say this. The only thing the only fly in the ointment that I saw was the two miscues by Dak. the one fumble where he didn't have his hand completely open, and the ball hit underneath there and dropped, but we recovered it, so we were okay. But then he did have the one turnover, so we were actually, we didn't get any turnovers, but we were -1 on that, but we still won the game. Statistically, when you are in the minus category on turnovers, you do not win. So that just tells you how dominant this team was.
That's right. I mean, and we were up 21-0 at halftime. They were pitching a shutout through the third quarter. I mean, this defense, Sunday, we got to see the Mo and Carr's performance in the secondary.
Yeah.
You know, all season they've been really good, but I mean, there's only so many seconds that a corner is going to be able to blanket an NFL receiver in an NFL offense before, you know, that receiver gets open. What we were able to do on especially with finally starting to generate some pressure, and like I said, Tank Lawrence made a gigantic impact in this game.
Absolutely.
Because Mo and Carr and the rest of that secondary had to just keep doing what they'd been doing. And that was cover guys for a solid 4 or 5 seconds. And they were all blankets back there. And you finally got to see where the coverage set up that defensive line to work a couple of moves, get all that attention out on Tank, and you got to see those guys start crashing the pocket.
And what's even more impressive, the impact that Lawrence had on the defense was that he was only out there for a limited number of snaps.
Yep.
I mean, passing downs and a few others. I mean, so he wasn't even fully integrated into the defensive scheme yet. So much good to look at here. I mean, it was an impressive show in my opinion. Just a couple stats we want to take a look at as we do every week. Mm-hmm. Prescott. He went 227 yards for one touchdown. Again, no interceptions. Again, I think he's 9 attempts away from the all-time record of attempts to start a career without a pick. I think Tom Brady has that record. Here's the other thing: Ezekiel Elliott went for 134 yards. The big burst we saw, the 60-yarder. Yep. But the team, it had 2 touchdowns. But the team overall ran for 180 yards. Yep. And so, you know, that it just tells you that what that offensive line is doing.
Manhandling them.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the offensive line with one other thing too. And I think the fact that Dak Prescott doesn't have an interception, you got to give that to the offensive line partially as well, because it's given him time to make good decisions.
Yep.
If he didn't have the time and he was getting just hammering so much pressure, he would have to force things. And while we see occasionally we got away with one this game. I mean, he threw it into the hands of one of the defensive backs, or I think it was linebacker, and he dropped it. Yep. And so I think we all kind of went, ooh, but you know he's still clean on that. But that's the offensive line giving him time to make those decisions and to read what's going on. So just a big shout out to them again. Bailey was 4 for 4 on extra points. Our leading tackler was Barry Church. He had a total of 7.
He was flying all around.
He made some impact. So here's a couple of notes. Time of possession. This was one we did not win the time of possession battle, but when you have a 60-yard burst, that'll take away 60 yards of clock crunching.
That's right.
We had Cincinnati had about a 4.5 minute edge on us, and it goes back to what I said last week about the meaning of time of possession. Having the ball the most, does not necessarily mean that you're translating it into a win or to points.
Right.
You want to look at that and see what the defense is doing and how they're controlling it. And so 4.5 minutes, one way or the other, that means it's keeping it pretty close, and they've done a good job. Red zone efficiency, we were 75% this week. Probably would have been 100% without the Prescott fumble. He was inside the red zone when he did that. Yep. Again, we were -1 on turnovers. So here's the big thing. Zeke's got 5 yards per carry. He's averaging right now, which is pretty stunning. But Zeke leads the NFL in rushing, 546 yards. He has, and that is more than 23 other NFL teams have as a whole. So that's saying something. He is also 85 yards ahead of the guy that's in second place, and who, by the way, is DeMarco Murray. So he's having some Dallas flashbacks, I guess, right now with Tennessee. So,
right.
So with all of that said, we are just really in a good position.
Absolutely.
We're in a lot better position than what I or anybody else thought we would be in when we all watched Tony Romo break his back. Nobody expected this, I don't think. We all thought that the apex of this was going to be 3-3 at the break.
Right.
And so, at best, we're going to be 5-1. At worst, we're going to be 4-2. I watched the Green Bay game Sunday night, and I think we can beat them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we'll get into the Green Bay game here in a minute, but overall, I just think this is a complete team.
Yeah, I mean, a couple other notes that I had to wrap up our recap here. This week, you finally got to see Dak start stretching the field. Mm-hmm. That had been my one knock on the whole Dak versus Romo conversation was, I mean, Dak's clearly making good decisions because you don't start sniffing records for pass attempts without an interception if you're just terrible. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the guy that he would be passing for that record would be one Tom Brady. Yeah. He makes good decisions. He knows when to use his feet, except for in the fourth quarter when he took that unnecessary hit, but we won't get into that. But no, like I said, the one thing that seemed to be missing from Dak was, and he carved up Cincinnati, but from 5 to 12 yards down the field. I mean, he absolutely carved them up. But what you finally got to see was he started finally hitting, and this is with Dez sitting on the bench, as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you started seeing him take those calculated risks and make those, be putting throws on guys right where they needed to be 20 yards down the field.
Yeah, in his, the longest completion of the game was 31 yards, and that was the one to Witten where the old man stiff-armed the
greatest of all time, by the way.
That was awesome. But I thought what we saw too, and you talk about stretching the field and opening this playbook up a little bit. I mean, he's still not seen a 9 route or a 7 route. I've seen him run that seam, and that was new.
Yep.
The inside seam. I hadn't seen him throw that, but that was the first time I've seen it, and I think that one was to Beasley, if I'm not mistaken. But fact of the matter is, you're right. He's starting to mature more into a full blown quarterback. And and not that he wasn't before, but you know what I'm saying. It's just that he's finding his comfort zone, and it's a growing thing. It's going to keep happening.
Part of his maturation process. And I'll tell you, I'll give you one other snippet. You want to know how dominant our defense was this past week?
Yeah.
Cincinnati, their first red zone possession, their first red zone snap did not happen until 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So that means for 50 minutes, this defense kept them at least 20 yards away from the end zone.
Yeah, it's again just a great job this defense is doing.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Again, we say it every week. It was coming into the season they were the much maligned defense, and I don't think. The stats may not be stellar in terms of we can stand to get a couple more turnovers.
Right.
We can stand to get some more sacks and some more pressure. But I think we see it starting to come a little bit now, and that's that was to be expected. But with all that being said, you're right. They're doing a great job doing the things that they need to do to have us be successful on the field. And so you can't ask for anything more than that. They're just they're just going lights out. So
that's right.
All right. So that kind of covers our review of the Cincinnati game. Again, just a really great game. We'll be back in a few minutes. We'll talk about the Green Bay game coming up. You're going to notice something on here that's a little different.
That's right.
We have moved our watch parties to Sam's Sports Grill at Blue Turtle Bay in Old Hickory,
Awesome.
Tennessee. I went out. I've been there a couple times, and this is a beautiful place. It's down on the beautiful Cumberland River. We have our own dedicated room out there. They're excited to have us out. So come out.
Need everybody this week.
This week's going to be, yeah, because you got to remember, it always happens when we go into a bye. We always start going, oh my gosh, there's no Cowboy game this week. Well, let's get your fix now.
That's right.
Come out with everybody. We're going to have a great time. Experience this new place. Come out a little bit early just to take in the atmosphere, because you're going to want to get that absorbed before the game, because you don't want to miss any of the game. But this is a great place to enjoy a game. So anyway, we'll be back in just a few minutes, and we'll talk about the Green Bay game. All right, we are back, and we thank you for kind of staying with us through the break. And again, check out our sponsors, GameDaySportsTours.com, and certainly check out Sam's Sports Grill at Blue Turtle Bay in Old Hickory. They've got a website. The link will be on here too.
Yep.
Just check them out. You're going to want to go out there, even if it's not for the watch party. But you're going to want to be there for the watch party.
Yes.
But you'll be out there a lot more than that once you get out there and try their food. It's fantastic stuff. So this week we have Green Bay. We are going to Lambeau Field, a frozen tundra, which won't be too frozen.
Right.
But the site of was it or wasn't it a catch? I know what it is. We all know it's a catch. But
Hashtag Des got it.
yes, absolutely. So we're going up there, and like I said in the previous segment, I don't see any reason not to feel confident going into this game.
Yeah.
Green Bay's a good team, a very good team, but we're a very good team too.
That's right.
We don't need to hang our head around Green Bay or around anybody this year. We've done so well.
Yep.
The soft spots that we thought we had, they've disappeared, and so I feel pretty good about it. And watching the Green Bay game the other night, I think they can be had.
Oh yeah.
And
they look very beatable.
Yeah, I think we've got a real good chance at this one. Actually, I think I've got a gut feeling about it. My gut feels better about this game than it did against the Cincinnati game, just simply because of where we have progressed to,
right?
Where we've went from and where we are now.
And this team's got confidence too.
Yeah, that's
this Cowboys team really's got a lot of swagger about them.
That's a very good point, because with every win that they get, they keep thinking, "Hey, we can do this.
Yep,
we can do this." And all of a sudden, they're like, "Now we know we can do this."
Yep. And
they go out there and then they do this. So I'm fairly confident. I think looking at the game itself, I mean, I know we always we ask, who do we want to watch and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I'm going to start it off with I'm going to cheat a little bit again because I want to watch somebody
That's
on
2 now if you're keeping score.
Yes, but honestly, last week when I said I'm watching that offensive line, it was exactly the right call, because they balled out.
It worked.
So a couple things is going to be key. Is going to be watching how this defensive line can get, and it's going to be more important this week than it was last week.
Yes.
Because Aaron Rodgers, he will make you. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is not Andy Dalton.
No.
Not even in Andy Dalton's dream.
No.
Is Andy Dalton Aaron Rodgers? No. So he will make you pay. Plus, on top of that, he's got Cobb, he's got Jordy Nelson, he's got a good tight end, and I don't know. I haven't seen or heard yet, but whether or not Eddie Lacy's playing, I know he got hurt the other night. That will affect their game plan somewhat.
Yeah.
but I don't know if it affects it dramatically. I think it does affect it somewhat in terms of the number of run plays and how we game plan against them.
Right.
But with all of that said, if we can get that pressure on Aaron Rodgers, and we can get to his feet.
Yep.
It's get to his feet and make him, don't let him get outside. Don't let him do that scramble stuff and all that jazz. If we can stay upfield, contain, and we can collapse that pocket in the middle like we did against Cincinnati,
yes,
and we can get our hands in his face and all this kind of stuff. This is real winnable. This is very doable. So my watch group is the defensive line, and I think as that defensive line performs, that's how the Cowboys go.
Absolutely. Yep. I have a couple of key points that I think as long as the Cowboys follow these, we should be able to win. Like I said, it already looks like it should be a pretty winnable game. But Green Bay has one of the better run defenses in the NFL. Last I looked, I think they're ranked like third in the entire league in rushing defense. So I think the first thing that we need to do is our offensive line needs to be setting the tone. Now, I don't have any doubts that they can because that's what they've done all year. So we need the offensive line to get out there, keep doing what they do, and punish guys in the trenches. To go along with what you said about Mr. Aaron Rodgers, you can't fall asleep in coverage. Because none of the receivers, I guess the tight end's a pretty big guy, but neither of the outside receivers are huge deep threats. They're not great big guys, but they are really good after the catch. So you cannot fall asleep on them in coverage, and if they do catch the ball on you, which, it's Aaron Rodgers, so it's inevitable, but you got to maintain your discipline with tackles.
Yeah, they got to break down.
Yeah, and that's one thing, that's going back to Cincinnati, that we tackled, that entire defense tackled beautifully that entire game.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt, but, you're talking about tackling. The guy that, and everybody did a good job. But the guy that keeps surprising me with that is Anthony Brown.
Oh, yeah.
He breaks down perfectly to tackle.
Yep.
That doesn't mean he's always going to get it right, but the way he breaks down, I want to see Skandrick back out there, but I'm telling you, the way he's playing there, he's been able to tackle. He hasn't let things get by him for the most part, and he's played the ball pretty well. So.
Oh yeah, I think he's a good bargaining chip for Jerry Jones when it comes time to have to pay Brandon Carr again. At any rate, that's no knock against Carr. I guess that's kind of a knock against Carr, but he's been playing much better the last couple of weeks.
Well, maybe a bargaining chip with Skandrick.
Well, that's true considering he can't even get on the field. But at any rate, so that plays into my third key to victory is you beat them up in the trenches, you play good coverage, which allows your defense to get in and start containing Rodgers. Just like you said, this defensive line has got to continue to create opportunities for themselves to get to the quarterback. That's why my player to watch this week, and I think you might have cheated off me, but that's okay. That would be 3, but we're only going to count 2. Is going to be Tank Lawrence. Because, like I said, this defensive line looked like an entirely different group. They were all more fresh. They were all meaner. They seemed to get off the ball faster. I don't understand how practice fixes that, but or even how just one different guy on the line fixes that. But they were all right in their lanes. They played their assignments beautifully, and they crashed the pocket. 75% of the time it looked like whenever Dalton was going back to pass, there was a Cowboy in his face. Yeah,
you talk about getting off the ball and getting off the line at the snap.
Yep.
There were several times that you compare players and you go, well, do you really want to compare them? But I'm going to say this. You saw Tank Lawrence get off the ball so fast. Several times it almost looked like he was offsides. Even one time, the studio folks thought that too, and they went back and replayed it. and he's just moving at the snap of the ball.
Yep.
For a guy who hadn't been playing for 4 weeks, and being that quick and that reactionary that quickly reminds me a lot of DeMarcus Ware.
Yep.
DeMarcus Ware was phenomenal at getting off the ball.
Yep.
And so, but you're absolutely right. And when you do that, the rest of that defense feeds off of that.
Oh,
and so they, so.
Now, can you imagine sitting back in coverage, watching your guy, and seeing your defensive line up there? I mean, hands up, smothering the offensive line and getting to the quarterback. I mean, yeah, it's gonna fire you up.
Yeah, and they, like I said, they are they're doing. You would want to think that they're doing it like patchwork, and they're
Right.
and they're just kind of baling wire and chewing gum, putting it together with all that stuff, and just. But these guys are really good players.
Yeah.
And they're playing very well within the system.
Absolutely.
And so that goes back, think about where you trace that all the way back to. You can trace this all the way back up the tree to Will McClay, who, was part of the personnel, it was the head of the personnel department.
Yep.
And so, he's got to find the players that fit these schemes.
Yep.
And so the coaches go to them and say, look, this is what we play. This is the kind of guys that we need. Go find them. And he goes and finds them, and they're all playing well. So, yeah, absolutely. And you're right. The defensive line is going to, in Tank Lawrence specifically,
Yep.
Will be a huge factor.
Want to see him have the kind of impact in Green Bay, to replicate the kind of impact that he had in Cincinnati. If he can do that, then this is a very if Tank can be as much of an impact this week at Green Bay as he was last week, and we can assert ourselves along the offensive line, we should win this ball game.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And in terms of a prediction, for me, I'm giving you two predictions. They're both wins. I think if Dez plays, we win by 10, 27-17. If not, 20-17. I think Dez is worth an extra touchdown if he plays. I don't know. We may rest him again.
Right.
I don't know that. If we do, I think a guy that might have a big game is going to be Beasley.
Right.
Just a feeling. I don't know. Not based on anything other than how he's been playing.
Mm-hmm.
Just this past game, he was the second leading receiver with 4 catches for 53 yards, and of course his touchdown.
Yep.
So, the truth of the matter is, all facets of this team is just working together.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on the game?
Like I said, as long as we continue to play smart, let's limit our penalties, let's limit the turnovers, which we have thus far. I like the Cowboys. It's tough to ever count Rodgers out because he can sling the football 80 yards down the field if he wants. But I like the Cowboys in this one, 28-24.
Now, yeah, that's. I think we're of the same mindset,
right.
In terms of that. Now, I want you all to remember back to 2014. You remember when we went up to Seattle and they were the defending Super Bowl champs and they were the Legion of Boom and they were the greatest thing since sliced bread, and do you remember that?
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, this has that same kind of feeling.
Yes.
In that game against the Seahawks, launched this. They beat them, and they launched this team. That game launched this team for the rest of that season.
Yep.
And it was a great season. This game could have the same effect. I think that this could be that statement game. And going into the bye, if they're able to pull this out, going into the bye at 5-1, and sitting atop the division, if that happens, I'll say it right now, we're in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and we host a game.
I think that's
at minimum.
I think that's a fantastic assessment. The Vikings would be a very good game.
Right. They're the real deal.
The Eagles are always a coin flip. I hate to say that, but it really is. But aside from that, The Giants look done. If we go into the break 5-1, and beat Green Bay in Lambeau, yeah, we can count on playoffs.
Yeah, I just think that this has the feeling of 2014.
Yep.
The exception is Romo's not the quarterback.
That's right.
And I'm not going to get into the should he, shouldn't he, because everybody has beat that to death. And at the end of the day, does it really matter a whole lot? Because Levi doesn't make that call. I don't make that call,
right.
And nobody watching this, unless Jerry, you're watching this, nobody makes this call
right.
other than Jerry Jones and the coaching staff.
That's right.
And so what our opinion is really doesn't matter a whole lot. It's fun to kind of sometimes, it's not even fun anymore to talk about that.
Right.
It's just beating a dead horse because nothing's going to change what's going to happen. But no matter what happens, remember this. We've got a great quarterback back there.
Yep.
Whether Romo comes back or whether it's Dak back there, we now know we've got a proven commodity behind that offensive line. In 2014, we had a great offensive line then too, but it's essentially the same offensive line.
It is.
So there's nothing really, changed a lot. So with all of that said, just remember that feeling you had after the that Seattle game in 2014. I think you're going to feel that same feeling again after this Green Bay game.
Yep.
That's my opinion. Anything else?
No, you want to take us out?
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this edition of Blue Star Roundup. Again, we are the Middle Tennessee Dallas Cowboys fan club. If you are in the Middle Tennessee area and you just really want to have a great time with fellow Cowboy fans, you got to come out and check us out. We'll have a good time.
It's a blast.
We're now in a family-friendly environment.
Yep.
If you've got some little ones you want to bring along, you don't even have to worry about a babysitter. Come on out, have a good time. Just enjoy. And so on the video or underneath the video, there's going to be some links to our Facebook pages.
Yep.
Go to them, like a page, and then join it. You'll get all the information that's posted on the join page mostly. And then come on out and just have a good time. You will have a blast. And again, I just want to say, Sam's is awesome.
That's right.
It's right on the river. It's
You got to come check it out. Let's make a good first impression on them too.
If nothing else, that's right. If nothing else, you'll be impressed with all these very expensive houseboats that pull up, and it's crazy out there, but it's really a cool place.
Yeah.
We'll have a good time. So until next week, we'll be seeing you again, and go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys.